Disappearances often leave us with more questions than answers. The mystery of a person vanishing without a trace haunts their families, their communities, and even the investigators who search for them. Such is the case of Jason Jolkowski, a 19-year-old from Omaha, Nebraska, who disappeared in 2001. Unlike many other missing person cases, there was no sign of struggle, no evidence of foul play, and no leads. Jason simply walked out of his home one morning and was never seen again, a fact that still baffles his friends, family, and the community that surrounded him. It was June 13th, 2001, just a regular Wednesday in Omaha, Nebraska. Jason Jolkowski, a shy but friendly young man, was scheduled to work his shift at a local restaurant that day. His car was in the shop, so he arranged for a coworker to pick him up and drive him to work. The plan was simple. Jason would walk to Benson High School, just 8 blocks away from his home, where his coworker would meet him. This was around 10:45 in the morning. It seemed like a routine walk through a familiar neighborhood. But Jason never made it to the school. Walking out the door that morning was the last time that anyone would see him. What makes Jason's disappearance so strange is that he vanished in broad daylight in a residential neighborhood with seemingly no witnesses, no commotion, and no trace of what happened to him. In fact, less than 30 minutes before he disappeared, Jason was spotted by a neighbor taking out the trash at his family's home. This was a confirmed sighting, meaning that the last time anyone definitively laid eyes on Jason, he was just at the edge of his family's driveway. Jason wasn't known to be reckless or someone who would take unnecessary risks. At only 19, he was described as responsible, quiet, and introverted, a guy who was happy to spend his free time on the computer or working on a future career in radio broadcasting. Jason also had no known enemies, no ties to criminal activity, and wasn't involved in drugs or alcohol. The most unsettling part is that in the hours and days that followed his disappearance, there was no evidence to indicate where Jason went. No items of his were found, no signs of a struggle, and no witnesses who saw anything suspicious. He simply disappeared on what should have been a routine walk in a safe and quiet neighborhood. The police initially thought that Jason might have run away, but his family quickly dismissed that theory. Jason didn't take any personal items with him, including his wallet or his keys, and there was no indication that he was unhappy or planning to leave. In fact, Jason had a paycheck waiting for him at his job, something that he wouldn't have left behind if he were indeed planning on running away. What's even stranger is the distance. The walk to Benson High School was less than a mile from his front door, and it should have only taken Jason about 10 minutes to traverse. Investigators believe something must have happened to him during that very short window of time. But what? There's no evidence to suggest that he was abducted or that anyone had followed him. As with most missing persons cases, several theories have emerged over the years about what happened to Jason Jolkowski, though none have ever been proven. One of the most widely believed theories is that Jason was abducted during his walk to the school. Although there's no direct evidence of this, the fact that he disappeared in broad daylight, within a span of only minutes, with no signs of struggle, suggests that someone may have taken him quickly and quietly. But how could someone pull off such an abduction in a residential neighborhood without anyone noticing? And why would someone target Jason, a quiet young man with no enemies? Another theory is that Jason may have encountered someone he knew, and something went terribly wrong. But again, this raises more questions than answers. Jason had a close-knit group of friends and family, and none of them had any issues with him, nor did they report seeing him that day. There's also the possibility that Jason suffered some kind of medical emergency or accident. However, extensive searches of the area, including nearby parks, wooded areas, and vacant buildings, turned up no evidence of Jason or his belongings. Additionally, Jason had no known health issues that might have led to a sudden medical emergency. Finally, some have speculated that Jason's disappearance might be linked to human trafficking or organized crime, though any evidence to support this is negligible at best. Investigators have kept an open mind, but none of these theories have led to any real breakthroughs in the case. Over the 23 years since he disappeared, one of the most frustrating aspects of Jason's case is the lack of physical evidence. Investigators have described the case as a black hole. There are no witnesses, no leads, no suspicious sightings, and no evidence left behind. Jason's bank account was never touched, and his cell phone showed no unusual activity leading up to his disappearance. It's as if Jason simply vanished into thin air. Jason's family has been devastated by his disappearance. His mother, Kelly, became a vocal advocate for missing persons after her son vanished. She started Project Jason, a non-profit organization dedicated to helping families of missing people. The organization works to raise awareness, provide support, and advocate for stronger laws regarding missing persons cases. Kelly and her family have continued searching for answers, holding out hope that one day they'll find out what happened to Jason. Jason Jolkowski's case remains unsolved, and after more than 2 decades, the family is still desperate for answers. If you have any information regarding Jason's disappearance, even if it seems insignificant, please contact the Omaha Police Department at 402-444-5818 or the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 1-800-THE-LOST. Every tip matters, no matter how small it may seem. Life can change in an instant. In some cases, it's a wrong turn or an unexpected moment that sends someone down a path from which they never return. This may be what took place in the bizarre disappearance of Rico Harris, a former basketball player whose life took an unexpected turn when he vanished in October of 2014. What makes this case so strange? The clues left seem to lead nowhere, and despite a brief trail of evidence, Rico hasn't been seen in almost 10 years. And as investigators continue to work on his case, plenty of mysteries remain. Rico Omar Harris was 37 years old when he disappeared. He was once a promising basketball star, a player with all the potential in the world. Harris stood a staggering 6 feet 9 inches tall and played for the prestigious Harlem Globetrotters for a very short time. But Rico's basketball career was derailed by struggles with alcohol addiction and personal issues. After years of battling his demons, he seemed to be on the verge of a new chapter in his life. In 2014, Rico was living in Alhambra, California with his girlfriend Jennifer Song. He had just moved in with her and was looking for a fresh start. Rico had plans to work in security and was focused on rebuilding his life. However, things took a strange turn in October of that year. On October 9th, 2014, Rico left Alhambra for a solo road trip to visit his family in Seattle, Washington. He called Jennifer along the way, giving no indication that anything was amiss. His drive seemed ordinary, and there was nothing unusual in his behavior. But the very next day, Rico's mother received a concerning phone call from her son. Rico told her that he was in the mountains and feeling disoriented. She urged him to pull over and rest, not knowing that that call would ultimately be the last time that anyone would speak to Rico. Hours later, Rico's car was found abandoned on a remote stretch of Highway 16 in Yolo County, California, near the small town of Cache Creek. His black Nissan Maxima was parked in a turnout, with his wallet, phone, and a few personal belongings left inside the vehicle. At the point of discovery, the car had a dead battery, and it appeared that Rico had left on foot. But this is where the mystery begins to deepen. Search teams, including helicopters and scent tracking dogs, were deployed to find Rico, but their efforts yielded little. For a brief period, it seemed like they were on the right track. Rico's footprints were found leading into the surrounding woods, but they abruptly stopped. The trail seemingly went cold. No more prints, and no more signs of where Rico could have gone. In the days that followed, there were a few strange developments. Rico's phone pinged a cell tower 70 miles away from where his car was found, suggesting he might have traveled further north. And on the evening of October 10th, a witness reported seeing a man matching Rico's description, walking alongside a rural road in the area, although that sighting was never confirmed. Theories about Rico Harris's disappearance range from the plausible to the downright bizarre. One of the leading theories is that Rico might have succumbed to the elements or suffered a medical emergency. The area where his car was found is remote, with rugged terrain and dense forests around. If Rico wandered too far into the wilderness, he could have become lost or gotten injured. However, multiple search teams scoured the area, and no trace of Rico or his belongings were ever found. This theory is plausible, but the complete lack of evidence cast doubt upon it. Another theory is that Rico may have had a mental health crisis and chosen to disappear. His family revealed that Rico had a history of battling depression, and the stress of his career struggles and personal life may have pushed him to a breaking point. Some believe that Rico may have intentionally walked away from his life, but this raises even more questions. If that's the case, why hasn't he been spotted anywhere since? Rico, a man standing at a towering 6'9", was not someone who could easily blend into a crowd. A more unsettling theory is that Rico may have met with foul play. The rural area where his car was found is isolated, making it difficult for anyone to stumble upon him. But the fact that his wallet and phone were left behind suggests he may not have been planning to leave for long. Did someone pick him up? Or was he coerced into leaving his vehicle? If foul play is involved, there's no evidence to suggest who might have been responsible. Perhaps the strangest part of Rico's disappearance is just how little evidence there is. It's as if he vanished into thin air. His family remains adamant that he wouldn't have walked away from his life intentionally. Rico was excited about his future with Jennifer and had plans to settle down. Yet, as with so many missing person cases, the answers seem just out of reach. In the months and years since Rico vanished, there have been a few leads, but nothing concrete. Despite extensive searches, no new evidence has ever emerged. The case has left investigators baffled and his family heartbroken. Rico's mother, Margaret Fernandez, continues to hold out hope that her son is still alive somewhere, waiting to be found. Rico's family has struggled to make sense of his disappearance. His mother has described the pain of not knowing as unbearable, and his girlfriend Jennifer has kept hope alive that Rico will one day walk back into her life. It's a tragic reality that many families of missing persons face: the endless waiting, the lack of closure, and the ongoing questions that haunt their days and nights. Margaret Fernandez has worked to keep her son's story alive, speaking to the media and advocating for continued search efforts. But after nearly a decade, the case remains unsolved, and the whereabouts of Rico Harris are still unknown. If you have any information about Rico Harris's disappearance, please contact the Yolo County Sheriff's Office at 530-666-8282 or the National Missing Persons Hotline. Even the smallest detail could help bring answers to a family that has been left in the dark for far too long. Disappearing without a trace. It's an absolutely terrifying thought. one that has haunted the families of countless individuals who simply disappear without any explanation. Some cases capture national headlines, while others remain in the shadows, unknown to the public, yet no less strange. That's the situation surrounding Zeb Quinn, a young man who disappeared back in the year 2000, leaving a case filled with bizarre twists and eerie clues. More than 20 years later, Zeb's fate still remains a mystery. What happened to him? And why do the details of this case seem so unsettling? Zeb Wayne Quinn was 18 years old when he disappeared on January 2nd, 2000, from Asheville, North Carolina. He was described as a kind, quiet young man with no known enemies and no clear reason to vanish. Zeb worked at a local Walmart and was saving up to enroll in a local college. He had dreams, aspirations, and everything ahead of him, until that fateful night when he was last seen. On the night of January 2nd, Zeb had just finished a shift at Walmart when he made plans to meet a friend, Robert Jason Owens, to look at a car that Zeb was interested in buying. The two young men drove separate vehicles and were last seen together on surveillance footage at a gas station around 9:15 p.m. According to Owens, Zeb received a page while they were on their way to check out the car. After reading the message, Zeb appeared upset and told Owens that he needed to cancel their plans. He asked Owens to follow him to a nearby restaurant parking lot so that he could make a phone call. After completing that phone call, Owens stated that Zeb then sped off in his car, leaving Owens behind. That was the last time anyone saw Zeb Quinn alive. The next day, when Zeb failed to show up for work, his mother grew concerned. Zeb was reliable and had never missed a shift without notifying someone. By the time Zeb was reported missing, things had already started to take a strange turn. 2 days after Zeb's disappearance, Robert Owens was involved in a mysterious accident. He showed up at a local hospital with fractured ribs and a head injury, claiming that he had been in a car crash. Oddly, there was no police report or evidence of a crash involving Owens. When asked if his injuries could be related to Zeb's disappearance, Owens was vague and claimed not to know what had happened to Zeb. But things didn't stop there. On January 6th, Zeb's car was found abandoned in the parking lot of a local restaurant. The car appeared to have been intentionally staged. It had been left with the headlights on and a pair of lips drawn in lipstick on the rear windshield. A live Labrador puppy was found inside, along with several empty drink bottles and a jacket that didn't belong to Zeb. Even more bizarre, there was a hotel key card in the car, though no one was ever able to determine which hotel it belonged to. It was as if someone had carefully arranged the scene in order to confuse investigators. The clues left behind only deepened the mystery of Zeb Quinn's disappearance. Investigators were baffled by the seemingly staged nature of the car and the bizarre items found inside. The most troubling clue, however, came from Zeb's pager records. The page he had received on the night of his disappearance was traced to the home of a woman named Misty Taylor, someone that Zeb had been romantically interested in. Misty was dating another man at the time, and it's possible Zeb's feelings for her were unreciprocated. When questioned, Misty denied knowing anything about Zeb's disappearance and claimed that she wasn't involved. The case grew colder with each passing day. As the time passed, rumors swirled about Zeb's fate. One theory was that Zeb may have been lured into a trap by someone close to him, possibly involving a jealous boyfriend or a romantic rivalry. Robert Owens, who was the last person to see Zeb, remained a person of interest, though no concrete evidence linked him directly to Zeb's disappearance. Another theory involved the staged nature of Zeb's car. Some speculated that the items found inside, including the puppy, were left as a diversion or a message meant for someone involved in Zeb's life. But if that were true, what was the message? Investigators couldn't find any clear motive for foul play, nor could they explain Zeb's sudden decision to abandon his plans with Owens that night. The clues were odd, but none of them led to answers that Zeb's family so desperately needed. In 2015, 15 years after Zeb's disappearance, there was finally a break in the case. Robert Jason Owens, the same man who had been with Zeb the night that he vanished, was arrested for the murder of a local couple, J.T. Codd and his wife Christy, who had been reported missing in March of that year. Owens had worked as a handyman for the couple, and his arrest shocked the community. During Owens' trial, investigators began to re-examine his potential involvement in Zeb Quinn's disappearance. A very brief aside from this story, I want to give a little insight into what went into the creation of this content. I originally began researching this case as a bizarre unsolved disappearance, but over the course of dissecting it, I can let you know that there has been a resolution to this story, as tragic as it may be. This is something that I happened to discover after recording this episode. However, I feel like presenting you with this update is much more fitting than our originally planned conclusion. In 2022, after being found guilty for murder in the case of the missing couple, Robert Jason Owens took a plea for playing a role in the murder of Zeb Quinn. However, Owens stopped short of claiming responsibility for taking Quinn's life. Instead, Owens laid the blame at the feet of a deceased family member of his, stating that on the night that Quinn allegedly went missing, Owens' uncle shot Zeb Quinn in the back of the head before enlisting Robert Owens to assist in the disposal of the body. Owens claimed that in order to do so, they burned both Zeb Quinn's body and his possessions at that time. Although, after telling authorities where this all took place, no remains of Zeb were ever found. Robert Jason Owens was charged with accessory after the fact to the first-degree murder of Zeb Quinn. He was sentenced to 12 to 16 years to run concurrently with his sentence of 65 to 75 years for the other murders that he was involved in, what will effectively be a life sentence for him. While this puts the Zeb Quinn case to rest in a way, it leaves many other questions wide open. Questions that we will likely never get the plain answers to. Given Owens' loose relationship with telling the truth, I don't personally believe that there was anyone else involved in Zeb's demise. But due to the lack of physical evidence, the accused family member of Owens being deceased, and the prosecutors being unsure of how this would fare at trial, I understand why the plea was offered, though the closure that this offers doesn't encompass what really happened on the night of January 2nd, 2000, nor does it explain why Zeb's life was so callously snatched away. What it does allow for is the Quinn family to grieve their lost son, brother, and grandchild properly, knowing that no matter what time passes or what further details emerge, that Zeb won't be walking back through their door, whether in part or in whole, because of the acts of an individual that will spend their remaining years behind bars. I want to thank you for watching today's video. If you found these cases as baffling as we did, don't forget to share this video to keep the stories of those featured alive. Be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any future episodes on unsolved cases and eerie disappearances. I hope to catch you on the next one.